This is a video overview of the warranty experience I had with MSI on my new MSI Meg Z390 Godlike Gaming motherboard. I think this is important to do these for, especially for those of us that are just lay people off the street that the manufacturer doesn't know from anyone else. So obviously, you know, I'm not some known reviewer or something. So the experience that I had, you know, I don't have like an, MSI rep or something like that, like a lot of these guys I hear of do, that kind of thing. This is just a straight, unadulterated warranty experience. Again, I think it's important for us to do these because for the situations where we get good customer service, I think it's important for us to mention that. Otherwise, manufacturers will have no incentive whatsoever to give good service because, well, why bother with the extra effort if people are either going to keep buying our stuff or not keep buying our stuff one way or the other. So by doing these, it gives a little bit positive feedback. Obviously, it sucks. My brand new $600 motherboard went up in smoke. Maybe there was no smoke, but you get the analogy. Shortly after I bought it, I think I had the system up and running for maybe 3.5 weeks before the board died. I can't prove why the board died. There's a few different possibilities. My strongest inclination is that the board just straight up died. It does happen, and as frustrating and annoying as it is, you have to stay calm. And, I am a firm believer in the fact that it sucks that something went wrong, but what the real question is what is done about it after it went wrong. How is it taken care of after it goes wrong? Which, a normal person buys a motherboard for $100, $200. Most people aren't going out and spending several $100s on a motherboard. So I think that this was kind of the final straw that I was waiting for to give my final opinion on this board. A lot of people believe that the Z390 Godlike is an overpriced board. I think it is priced on the top end of what you could justify getting away with. I think the price is somewhat of a, this is what we thought the most we could get at people for the board, for the product is. That being said, I think the most important part was how is the service on it. The quality of the service that went along with this was kind of going to be the make or break thing for me. I am not an MSI supporter. I have not traditionally been. I've actually been kind of a critic of MSI. I've had a lot of issues with MSI products in the past, and I've kind of had a steer away mentality. So I'm definitely giving an honest, unbiased view here. Maybe even biased more in the direction of against MSI, if anything. I'll give first. I don't know how closely they watch this stuff. I'm guessing no one at MSI is ever going to see this video. If they do, I will list first the one honest thing I think they could have done to make this experience better for me, and I think for anyone else. And it's unique to this class of product. I really think if you're going to sell a product in this price range, I really think that you should have dedicated, I don't know what you'd call it, a dedicated preferred support for, if I'm going to go out and spend $600 on a motherboard, that's a lot of money. That's a premier product. That's not a, buy it, it works for a while, great, whatever. That is a premier flagship product, and I think if you're going to sell a product in that price category, I think that there should be a higher level of customer service that goes with it. That being said, and as I'm going to get into here, what I've received was not bad. I so far, aside from that one suggestion, I don't have any real complaints, and actually I have several positives of this. So getting into it, back at the beginning of the month, we were having a storm in my area, and I noticed the power fluctuating a little bit. The computer was still on, running just fine, but out of an abundance of caution, I shut the computer off. I do believe I may have, in my haste, just straight up unplugged it just because I wanted it off as soon as possible to not risk any damage. And the power didn't go off until, I don't think, several minutes after. Totally unrelated topic if you're still watching this. Forgive my eyes darting back and forth. I'm still getting used to staring directly into the camera. I still feel weird doing it. Anyway, back to the topic. So the system was unplugged. And for those of us who build systems, you know, unplugging a system should not damage a system. I had no reason to believe that that would damage it. So I did that. I was all proud of myself that I'd gotten my system, you know, disconnected. Even with a surge protector, I've seen systems damaged through surge protectors. So I wanted it disconnected from the wall. So I did that. Several hours later, the power came back on. Storm had passed. I plugged it back in and turned it on. Nothing. After diagnosing for a little while, I determined the board was toast. I think I came up with 3 or 4 possibilities as to what could have happened. The first possibility was that the board was already damaged by power surge before the system even turned off, which somebody a little more familiar with the electronics side of it suggested to me that that's probably not possible. I can only go on what he told me, but it didn't sound like it was possible for that to happen, or if it had, I would have just seen the computer go poof and it would have been off, which that's not what happened. I even saw the little dancing MSI dragon as it was powering down after I disconnected the power. So there was that possibility. There was the possibility that the simple act of pulling the power cord killed it, which is probably the most concerning to me because that would suggest to me that the board is more fragile than I would want. Another possibility that crossed my mind was the power supply. I did have, not this unit, but I did have this model of power supply when another similar failure occurred to me. It's a good power supply. It's a good 1200 watt thermal take, but I'm kind of leaning against that just because the same power supply was in the system back when I had my X99 based system. I ran that system for 1.5 years, 2 years, no problems. And if anything, that system probably should have been harder on the power supply, I think, being X99. And then my, what was my other thought on that? Oh, and I bought another board to use in the meanwhile while I was warranting this board, and I didn't have any problems with that one either. So I'm a little reluctant to think that my power supply was the problem in this case. The evidence would just, I know there's always flukes, but the evidence would suggest against it. The other possibility I can think of is it just randomly died. It was a coincidence that all that other stuff had taken place. I tend not to go with coincidences, but it is possible. Motherboards do die out of the blue. I tell my customers that to make them feel better, and the truth is, I got to take my own advice. Parts do die out of the blue for well, I mean, there's a reason, but I mean, it's not a reason you're probably ever going to know without knowing in-depth electronics and being able to, examine the thing under a microscope or whatever, but I'm kind of tempted to lean that direction. So in any case, I called MSI tech support, and this is the first thing that I found it a little difficult to find a straight up motherboard tech support line. It seemed like I ended up calling the laptop line, and then I was able to discuss motherboards with him. Maybe it was just me. I didn't immediately see an actual motherboard support. Again, maybe that was me, but that was my thought. But when I did get a hold of the person I spoke to, it was clear, understandable, local English-based tech support, which that really pleases me. Not that I have any problem speaking to someone in another country, but if English is not their first language, I already have trouble understanding people over the phone as it is. Trying to throw in a heavy accent, it's just, it can make it difficult. So that's probably my first thing. My next thing is that the individual I spoke to, I explained everything I had already done as far as diagnosing, and he didn't try to run me through a bunch of idiot procedures. He took my word that I knew what I was doing and that the board clearly was defective. And that's another big thing for me. There's nothing that I hate more than getting the company line and people that give you 10 million. Ooh, is it plugged in? Did you plug in the 24 pin? Are you sure that the power supply is turned? Like, seriously, there is nothing that bugs me more than going through an hour of that. I understand when you get, when you get a Dell rep on the line, they're trained to do that. But at the same time, if I clearly list in-depth, advanced, I did this. I clearly list in-depth, advanced tech troubleshooting that I have done. I don't want to get a line of BS. So they sent me an RMA. I sent the board in, and that's the next thing. That's a positive. I will say I don't know if MSI did give some sort of priority tech support to this product because it's a higher end product and they just don't list it on their website or what. But I mean, if it's only going to take like 10 days to fix the board, I mean, the fact that it's listed that it could take, what, 15 to 35 days, just tell me straight up. Don't give me that line about, to try to cover yourself. If I'm really going to have the board back as fast as it, and I'm not complaining that I got back fast. I think that if you're going to fix it that fast, don't list a massive thing to cover your butt so you could take any amount of time. Just say, yeah, for these boards, usually it's, a week and a half, 2 weeks. Listing that it could take over a month, I just assumed that it would then take over the month, because you know how it is. They don't usually say that stuff unless there's a good chance. So, Pro, I dealt with it very fast. I got the board back very fast, faster than I expected. I think I was a week into the month when I sent the board in, and by the time I got it back, it was about a week before the end of the month. So that's 2 weeks. That's a good turnaround. That's not bad. But advertise that. Like, come on, MSI. Tell us that your warranty service is that fast, I mean, give me something to look forward to. And then another, I think one of the bigger pros, two of them, actually. So the liquid cooler that I was using, I didn't have the proper bracket for it when I received it. So I built my own bracket. There was no way that bracket damaged the motherboard. However, that being said, I do feel like seeing my custom bracket is something that some companies would take advantage of the situation and say, well, we don't know that you didn't damage the board with your custom bracket here. We're going to have to charge you this fee because, we don't cover, user damage. I can see a lot of companies doing that kind of stuff. Hint, hint, Apple. Hint, hint. Anyway, so the fact that they didn't do that, they didn't take advantage of that to get out of repairing what is a very expensive product. Kudos to MSI for that. And then I think the last item of note here is the board I received back. I'm 99% certain that it was not my original board. I was kind of expecting maybe they'd fix the original board, or maybe they'd send me a brand new one just because it's such a new product. I don't know how many refurbs you're going to have sitting around of a board that's been on the market, what, less than 6 months? I don't know. But it definitely wasn't the same board because, I mean, I'm assuming that I guess I could be wrong, but I'm assuming they would have sent it back with my liquid cooler bracket. Maybe not, but I don't. Oh, the other reason I know it's not the same board is because my Windows no longer activated. So it was definitely a different board, or it would have straight up activated. And actually, the fact that it didn't auto-activate with Windows 10 suggests to me that it might be a brand new board. But that being said, when I went over the board, there was it's not like one of those situations where someone gets a board back that they sent in that was in brand new condition aside from whatever the defect was, and then they get a board back that works, but it's all scratched up, there's weird damage to it. None of that. The board was in like new condition. I could not find any sign that the board I received was not a brand new board. So overall, all around, MSI did a good job. I'm definitely open I am open to considering MSI now in situations that I would not have considered MSI on in the past, based solely on the quality of this tech support. If I mail in another item and I get some more tech support, that'll just solidify it again. So anyway, I hope this gives people a good idea. This is current tech support on a current level product, not, an experience I had 5 years ago or some crap like that. If anyone from MSI happens to see this and you want to send me some Lucky the Dragon paraphernalia, I love you guys, but I'm not really expecting that. But anyway, I wanted to give people a good idea, so I hope this helps somebody, and I hope this is good PR for MSI, because I certainly believe that good tech support should be rewarded, and I believe that this was an experience that deserves to be rewarded. So thank you, MSI. Anyway, that's everything I have to say. I hope everybody finds this informative, and thanks for watching the video.